committee spent several hours going over the current policy and making updates where needed, and that is not what was discussed in the board meeting. So I wasn't sure if that was accurate or inaccurate. And then also on the discussion of parking, my recollection from last meeting was that there were two main takeaways, right? These are not reflected in the maintenance activity. One was that you were going to get a drawing from the engineers, which I think Eric and engineers and the second thing is that we wanted to get an estimate from construction firm to provide a more reliable number for the folks that are for discussion. Those I think were the two action items. I think those were. Third topic is that the board approved the contract with teachers unions on education association 2 months ago, and it still has not been made available publicly. And so during today's meeting, I think it would be helpful if we could address the reasons for the delay. The fourth thing is that last month you addressed some of the questions I asked about the budget. I appreciate that. However, no one addressed the inconsistent year-over-year variations in teacher salary supplements by elementary, middle, and high school. And the business manager was not able to answer the related question asked about what the student-to-teacher ratio is budgeted to be. And it's another key question about the budget district goals. I remain concerned about that question, and I'm actually more concerned about it because after the board meeting, at the community forum about the superintendent search, a recent former board member stated that he participated in a board decision to deliberately increase the student-teacher ratio. He didn't increase it. And so, as the current board, I thought you might want to ask, what was the impact of that? Does it make sense? The budgeting appropriately brings that back in line. Which good sense of the way appropriately.
Did you get everything he was?
No, just you can say.
I apologize. Did you get everything that he was asking about the minutes? Okay. We'll go to the next, and then I'll have a few more comments after that. But Ginger.
Good evening. Just a little background on me. Oh, thank you so much. I'm kind of the self-appointed watchdog of the county, along with several other people. And there's things that are going on at the county level that maybe you guys are unaware of. Do you know that because the county thinks they're still getting ARPA funds, that they continue to spend and tax? They're in the midst of proposing another 5 cents a gallon on top of the 4 cents that they have. Plus the state increased the gas tax too. And also the county's proposing 1% sales tax on groceries. The governor and legislature is proposing more ways to tax us. They also want to increase their share of our property taxes for themselves. And the schools already take at least 70% of our property taxes. And I'd kind of like to see maybe an analysis on your administrative people to see if we really need them. Also, something else to keep in mind, because I did see this number 7, authorizing interventions and proceeding before the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board. I'm not real sure what that is. I wasn't able to look at it. But the other thing is, be on the lookout for another sales tax, brand new sales tax that the county wants to impose on everybody. So there's going to probably be a referendum this either March or November. So I'd just like you guys to keep that in mind. We're all getting taxed up the wazoo, and there's a lot of people in this district, on the west end of the district, basically, that are getting taxed out of their houses. So I hope you can keep that in mind. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And thank you to both of you. That's my mistake. I was going to ask that we remove the resolution authorizing the intervention for the proceedings before the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board, if we can remove it from consent agenda, and if we can make it E, action items. And we can have a discussion on that. Can we, because he's asking about reason that's not being correct, can we discuss that? I apologize. Excuse us just a minute while we double check our minutes.
There are separate posted minutes for the policy committee meeting, so
Okay.
that would be more of the details on this. This would just be the update on what was given here.
Okay.
The minutes from the actual policy committee meeting will be made public as well. so-
Okay.
And that would have more of the details on that conversation.
So we're good to leave that. That's where it's at. Okay.
And then, what was the other? There was a question about budget. That was just a question, that wasn't with the
prior
minutes,
question
yeah.
that we dealt with. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for your patience. With that, we will move on to our action reports. The first being the consent agenda.
So make a motion to move the,
So I have to make a motion
To make a
move
motion
first.
to
So
move it.
can I have a motion and a second to move number 7, which is the resolution authorizing interventions and proceedings before the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board, out of consent agenda and into a discussion topic and action item under E?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a roll call for that?
just do, you can do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now you can,
Now I can ask for a
I
motion
can ask
second
for a
to
motion
do
on,
consent.
on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8.
Okay, so for the remainder of the items in consent agenda, which would be 1 through 6 and then 8, can I have a motion and a second to discuss and approve?
Second.
Roll call for that, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, and then for the adoption of middle school textbooks, both for the adoption of middle school math textbook grades 6, 7, and 8, and the adoption of middle school science textbooks grades 6, 7, and 8, can I have a motion and a second to discuss and approve?
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. And a motion and a second required for the recommendation for approval of Wold Architects and Engineers, AIA B133 agreement. A motion
So moved.
Second.
and roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And motion and second for recommendation for approval of STR Architects and Engineers, AIA B133 agreement. A motion
So moved.
Second.
and roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then a motion and a second to discuss and approve the resolution authorizing interventions in proceedings before the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board. A motion,
So moved.
I'll second.
and then
Discussion.
Open this up for discussion at this point.
Can you explain a little bit what
So this is something new to Central. It's not new to school districts. A lot of school districts' lawyers do this on their behalf. You get requests, I've been getting them for years, and just finally it was like, okay, what the heck does this really mean, and are we losing money and stuff like that? So we don't get very many of them here. Obviously, we don't have a lot of commercial. Target and Farm and Fleet are probably our two biggest commercials in our area, and we get letters from them every year. So every year, they automatically do it, and then the school districts and other taxing bodies, any taxing body will get the letter if it's more than 100,000. So then we're asking tonight to do a resolution that allow us, whenever we feel that it's necessary or it's something to move forward on, that the lawyer can intervene. These are time sensitive, so you only have 60 days to intervene from the letter. So depending on when I get the letter in the next board meeting, the timing could be really tight. This one is one of them, and so that's why we went with the open-ended one, that we can just basically, at our direction, the superintendent or myself or whoever is designated, that can say, can you try to intervene on this? At any point when if it gets to the point where it could go to a hearing, hearings get very expensive and it may not be worth it at that time, we can pull out. There's nothing that binds us to continue through the whole entire process and spend, thousands and thousands of dollars for something that we might only get $2,000 back. So,
Yeah, I think thank you for that explanation. I think that was my question. What are we potentially spending in legal and other things in order to get this?
yes, so it depends on all the values and stuff like that. You might have to pay for an appraisal and our legal fees to write the letter. The letter's just a standard letter. So it's minimal for just trying to intervene. That could benefit getting more money back. But at that point where you keep fighting it, then it could get costly and we can stop it at any time.
But it sounds like this is something that is pretty typical for school districts to
And
adopt.
Target and Farm and Fleet and some of these other corporations, they're the ones that do it because why not? If it
They've
saves
got
them
lawyers.
money. Yes, yep,
Have we ever intervened before?
no.
So to clarify some of the questions that we had too, this would not include individual homeowners or an HOA that's maybe filing.
I've
On
never seen
behalf
it
of
in
all.
our 13 years here, that it's always been Target and Farm and Fleet.
That'd be some house.
Or, yeah, it could be somebody that's disputing it to that level. $100,000 is the magic
pretty
number.
significant, yeah.
So if it's $10,000,
That'd be a lot.
we wouldn't get it.
Excuse me, it's really difficult to hear. We were sitting in the back and I could hardly hear, and now I hear this woman here saying, I can't hear. If you could raise.
I apologize, yeah.
We will speak louder.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sure.
these microphones, they don't,
they don't project, they
pick up
just
in here.
go into the recording.
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if we could do something about that. It's hard.
We'll speak louder.
Yeah, we'll do a better job.
Thank you.
So to recap, for anybody that kind of missed that, I'll try to recap a little bit, and if I miss it, please jump in. I asked the question just to ensure, because what it sounds like is this has to do with our commercial buildings within the district, not individual homeowners or like an HOA that would file on behalf of individual homeowners. It has to do with our commercial properties, mainly being Target and Farm and Fleet. And so the question that I was asking is just to clarify that that's for commercial buildings, not individual homeowners, and that seems to be correct.
I've never seen the homeowner association one come through.
Okay.
So I do not want to be disingenuous and say that couldn't. We've just never seen that happen in that respect. And so I think if that were the case and that was something that came through, we would know if that's the case, and then that's something that we could bring back and decide if that's something we want to bring back to the board. In general, these are looking at more commercial, professional types of buildings that we're looking at.
Why don't you amend the resolution to just have it pertain to commercial properties then? And then,
They can't be asking questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, like during this, we're not gonna have like question and answer during this. We'll just kind of go, so if we can't, is there a way to make, and this is just my question on this, is there a way for us to put the stipulation on it that,
So there are different variations of it. You could get permission every time, but I'm leery of the time sensitivity of it.
sure,
That we could miss a window to get it filed on time. Like this one, I think we have to the end of the week. So the lawyer is waiting for me to tell him tomorrow to go and just do it because we're close to that window.
okay,
That's why I said, let's just do the open-ended, and then they're not gonna just do it every time we get one. It's up to us to decide, yes, we wanna move forward or not.
okay,
My recommendation is to keep the language the way that it's written in there.
Okay.
That it still allows us flexibility should we choose to do something different. It's written in such a way that it is looking at only assessed valuation differences of over $100,000. That's a significant amount.
Yeah.
And it actually impacts everybody when we lose that amount, because it starts impacting then everybody sitting in the room residentially, because that valuation gets shifted to other people. So,
And it would seem to me that the $100,000, if we actually look at our tax bills, I would say the average house in our district, the the assessed value is probably not that far over $100,000 for tax purposes. So this has to be a really big house if it were even to be a case, to be honest with you, to be disputing $100,000 coming off. I just don't
And
see
you're just
it.
saying in 13, you've not seen anything that has been residential? that you can-
I mean, maybe changing it from residential to farmland, maybe. Changing the whole type of property might have decreased in value for that. They're saying that their value is less than whatever, like
Right.
those kinds of things. I've not seen a massive one that has 50 different taxpayers at 5,000 each to
Right.
get you to your $100,000 minimum, per se, yeah.
Any other discussion or questions?
That was gonna be my question, is how does farmland get impacted? Same?
I'm guessing so. I haven't really seen any of those. I just know that these two come every year.
Because if you get a farmer that has a large tract of land, you could trip that $100,000 threshold if he feels it's assessed wrong and wants to contest it.
Right. I think it's every property.
Okay.
Commercial, farming, industrial.
So at this point, it's just a roll call, right? Okay, so on this, a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And now at this time, we have some presentations. Our first is going to be our facilities report and architects.
I'll start with Dan.
We're excited and all. I live for this weekly or monthly meeting. Just a couple of quick updates before we get to the presentation. First one is, we just completed, in the last week or two, our health, life, safety inspections with the ROE, which is an annual inspection. Our district does a great job, our teachers do a great job, our administrators do a great job. Couple observations. Stuff in classrooms is starting to creep back in. COVID kind of, there's some very strict, I don't want to say legislation, but rules on what can be in classrooms because they're commercial spaces. COVID kind of got rid of everything, and now stuff's starting to creep back, so that's kind of the things we're dealing with. As far as the major health, life, safety stuff, our buildings are in great shape. Again, our staff does a great job, so I just wanted to update the board that that was a successful inspection season that we just went through. Second thing is, I know we're going to be later on talking about the parking lot. I just want to clarify that the $10,000 to $12,000 budget is for some conceptual drawings based on the direction we give our engineering firm, and then we get the budgeting from SMC. That's not construction drawings. Construction drawings will be another phase. So this is to put together some conceptual plans that then we can get budget estimates for. So I just wanted to clarify that so everybody's on the same page. Now we'll get into presentations. We're going to have Matt Verdon from Wold present first, and then Jennifer Costanzo and Alan Armbrust from STR present on kind of where they're at and what the future holds for our two new firms. Now you're good.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Matt Verdon with Wold Architects and Engineers. Just wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at with the facilities condition assessment. We'll talk real quick about kind of what a conditions assessment is and what it isn't. Give it a quick overview of what our process is as far as how we work our way through the buildings and what our deliverables look like at the end of that process as well. And then we'll talk about the schedule to get through that whole process. So with that, let's start with what the facilities condition assessment is. Really, the intent of this is to create a 10-year maintenance plan that Dan and his team can use moving forward to identify maintenance, typical maintenance issues that need to be budgeted for on a regular basis, what the priorities and timeline is to address those issues. And we also want it to be something that can easily dovetail into the master plan effort our friends at STR are going to be working on, because that's going to help inform some of the decisions that need to be made along the path of that master plan discussion. We're obviously going to partner with Erickson and IMEG. Erickson will focus on some of the site category stuff. IMEG on the MET, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. And each one of us will go through and identify deficiencies in your buildings and also take a look at it in terms of any systems or equipment that are coming up due for a life cycle replacement just because of their age, of the vintage of the equipment. And then obviously with any solution we come up with, we'll have a budget proposed for that. That's going to be an all-inclusive cost from a total project standpoint so that it's functional for Dana and Dan as they work on their budgets on an annual basis. And as we project that out over several years, we'll obviously account for inflation in those as well. A little bit about what it's not. It's not meant to supplement or not supplement, to supplant the master planning effort. So it's not going to look at things like demographics, enrollment, how you utilize your buildings. That's what the master plan effort's going to do. We can certainly look at how we time up some of the repairs and replacement work to time up with some of the strategies that come out of that master plan, but it's not going to implement that stuff as part of it. We'll also, just a quick comment, when we propose a solution to it, there's obviously design effort and some substantial work that needs to go into that. This is meant to kind of create a ballpark for what that cost is going to look like and the timing of it. But it's just really, it's not a full-blown design when we present that. Our process, where we're at right now, is we're working on our building tours. So we have started a couple weeks ago going out and walking through the buildings. We're really focused right now just based on the time of the year and where we're at on the exterior. So we're doing our exterior building walks, looking at things like the condition of the walls, the windows, the exterior doors, all that fun stuff, getting up on roofs and looking at the roof conditions, looking for things that are issues up there. We're going to be meeting with Dan soon to start looking at some other planning efforts and other reports that you guys currently have as a district, and how can we fold those into that as well. He just mentioned the health, life, safety stuff. We'll look to incorporate that in there. So that you kind of have this overall comprehensive document that's going to encompass all of your maintenance efforts. I think Dan's referred to it, his last one is the Bible that he follows. So we're going to try to create that same effort or that same quality of document so that Dan can really have a one-stop shop for all of his maintenance efforts. Obviously, we'll want to review things with you as a board, but also with Dan and his team along the way to make sure that there are things that they may be aware of that we can't see when we're out walking a building that we want to get folded in. But we also want to get his input too on how we set up our priorities, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So at the end, what you're going to have is you'll have that kind of snapshot in time of a report, a printable report that you'll have that shows where you are today. But you're also going to have a spreadsheet that I'll show you in a little bit that is going to be a useful tool for Dan as he works through annual planning, so you can push and pull things depending on changes in priorities or something breaks along the way that you've got to fit within an annual budget. So the areas of assessment, we're looking at 10 different areas. Like I said, Erickson will handle the site, IMEG will handle the MEP stuff. We're currently working through, like I said, the exterior before the weather turns bad. And then we'll start to dive into some of the interior stuff and filter in the life safety line item is where we'll bring in some of the health, life safety items. Hazardous materials is where we'll start looking at your 3-year asbestos reports, things like that. And if there's things to address there, that'll be filtered into that as well. As far as priorities go, this is one that's kind of unique to each district. Everybody kind of sets their urgency a little bit differently. The color-coded one at the bottom was an example from I can't remember which client that was. The one on the right is one that we're currently working on with Crystal Lake 47 and how they set up some priorities. So we'll sit down with Dan and kind of figure out how we want to do that and how do we want to get that alignment with the priorities A, B's, and C's from the Health Life Safety Survey as well. All of that, like I said, is really kind of however you guys want to organize that as a district to establish what needs to happen when. And then, like I said, we'll obviously roll in and time that timing with the outcome of the master plan effort as well. So what we'll end up with then is a series of floor plans. This is an example from one of our other districts that we've done this with. Keynotes on the plan and hatched areas that are going to show what the line item is from the spreadsheet, where it applies in the building, so we know where that's at, and we can easily go and track that down in the future. The really sexy part, the spreadsheet. Everybody loves a good spreadsheet. This is going to be totally sortable. It's basically a series of line items of different issues that we found. This is actually a snapshot of what we've accomplished so far going through some of the exterior stuff for the high school and the middle school. Was just out, finished up Lily Lake this afternoon before I came here. But you can see, as we start to categorize everything, you'll get to kind of the right side of the spreadsheet where we start to drop in priorities, the inflated costs, the funding source, so whether that's an O&M budget, that's health, life, safety funds, it's capital project funds. We can start to assign different funding sources to those line items. The year that we want to implement it, so whether it's 2026, 2032, whatever that is. There's some other columns to the right that are from a budgeting standpoint. But ultimately what you'll end up with then is this, some tabs in the spreadsheet that become very usable and very sortable. You'll see the 4 boxes on the right are basically boxes you can click on. This is an example from one of our other clients that you can sort it by the building, the category, the priority, the funding source. You can come up with any combination of that, and it spits out the report on the left right away because it pulls that data from that spreadsheet, and it becomes that sort of tool then that you can start to plan projects from a year-to-year basis. What's the important stuff we've got to focus on? How can we create kind of secondary projects for the lower priority stuff? You can really start to hone in on what you want to implement and when. So with that, as we talk about schedule, like I said, we've gotten started. Basically, our plan of attack is we're going to be in the district 2 days a week. Like I said, we're going to focus on afternoons and evenings to avoid conflicts with the students. We've been hitting all the exterior stuff here first before the weather starts to turn for the season. So we should be done with the exterior stuff in the first week of November. We're right on track with where we need to be right now. We're going to utilize some of our no school days to catch up and even work ahead. So this Friday when we got parent-teacher conferences, we're going to work ahead a little bit and try to get out in front of some of that stuff. We'll come back at regular intervals and review this with Dan along the way, help to set the priorities for each of those line items, give him information to give regular updates to the facilities committee along the way, and then have the final draft report ready for review in February. As you can see, the schedule has us going all the way through January to get through all of the interiors of all the buildings. So hoping to get out in front of that a little bit sooner, but like I said, it'll be probably late February. We'll have that report ready to start sharing, which should time up pretty well with what STR is going to talk about here in a little bit with the master plan. So with that, are there any questions?
I think it's a great process. Looking forward to seeing the report.
Great. That's it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Costanzo with STR Partners. Talk to you a little bit about our process for the master plan that we have in store for District 301. Just to kind of brief overview, the master plan is really just a marriage of the educational adequacy and how we are reviewing your instructional spaces against the curriculum and the goals that your district has, and then also marrying in the hard work that WOLD is doing with their facility assessments jobs. And the ultimate goal is then that we can start to address any curriculum items or marry in any of the facility assessment repairs that are required at the same time, so we can really maximize the dollars of the district and not and take advantage of those type things. So our master plan, we really want to be providing you with quality information so we can all make informed decisions. And then we can produce a flexible study that accommodates changing conditions, changing populations, and fluctuating funding levels. And again, the goal really is to maximize not only the dollars when you do the work, but the investment that your community has already made in all of your facilities to date. I'm going to turn it over to Alan.
Thank you. Yeah, so big picture schedule-wise, at the front end, in an effort to kind of maximize opportunities and not burden the staff, we're going to piggyback with WOLD. So when they're inside interviewing staff and things like that, we'll tag along with that to glean our information out of that at the same time, just to be efficient. But big picture here, on the left side, the green box is essentially the WOLD effort there at the top, and really kind of creating all that raw information we have. Some of it you already have, some of it will probably have to be updated, but really start to assemble all that. Then we kind of drive into more of the building-related pieces to see what we can do. So this doesn't really depend so much on district input, but really how big can the middle school be? How big can an elementary school be? What are the limitations of your existing sites? You probably know already that a lot of your sites are good size, but are limited in terms of stormwater and issues like that, and wetlands. So it isn't always so obvious. Rarely is student capacity or ultimate capacity of a school dependent on classrooms. It's the everything else. The cafeteria is not big enough, we can't get enough cars in there, zoning restrictions. So we'll assemble all that and sort through that, see what those opportunities will be. And again, just because a school can get so big doesn't mean internally that's the way the district wants to go. So we'll want to kind of define that second orange box there, guiding principles in terms of what is really a central school district's preference. You know, how schools, grade levels, all that sort of thing can be choices, and all goes into that. We really think of this as kind of creating if-then information. You know, if you get this kind of growth, here's 3 options of how to address that. If you get that kind of growth, if your funding changes this way, what are the options there? So don't think of it as one big, perfect lightning rod thing that's going to solve everything. It's really just a series of tools that'll give you the equipment to make those choices as we go on. Schedule-wise, it's interesting, when we started talking about this with the committee, at first we were thinking, well, gee, the advent of the new superintendent, is that a problem? And in reality, I think it's potentially an advantage, that being able to engage your new superintendent in this process will be very useful for them. They'll be able to get up to speed in the district in which a way that would normally take them years to do that, but I think that'll be advantageous. And I think we can be flexible enough to adapt to their availability as it goes through. So, but at the back end, as you get into the back 2/3 of this really does depend on external communication. So at the top, we show community input, so that's outside stakeholder input, more at the bottom. So we want to be able to engage the superintendent, engage the community in that process. So from the dotted line forward is really the front third here, so that's more internal effort. Everything else is an external effort. So we need to get together to really decide how to do that, how to manage that community input, and really what are the long-term goals of that community input. So we have time to do that, but our first effort will align essentially with the WOLD threshold, and probably end of January, early February, we'll have all our data to really start that next step, and then we can absorb also the WOLD information then too. Next, please. So we're going to analyze each of the sites and create a hypothetical sites as well. So we're going to define what is possible at each of these, what are the limitations. I think we'll also generate for the board's future use is, you know, what kind of land do you really need for a new elementary school? How much for a middle school? So you have those tools, and there's certainly flexibility in those, but State of Illinois has guidelines in terms of how big your site should be in relation to your population. We'll refer to that in that report, so you have that information to move forward. Next, please. So each site, we'll scour the input from internal staff, really get all your comparisons to the other buildings, district equity, the expansion limitations, district targets, and then really, as Matt said with his, we really want to make it one-stop shopping here in terms of really getting all this data in one place. I resist the temptation of that in some ways because it makes it so large, but computer-based is much easier. We don't want this to sit on a shelf. It really doesn't stop and is good forever. That really isn't how this works. You have to revisit periodically as conditions change, demographics being an obvious one, funding another one. The system is flexible enough to react to that. So we'll have all that in one place.
So we talked a little bit about having quality information so we can make informed decisions. And I'm showing a few examples here of how we provide that information to you in a graphic way that also is kind of user-friendly. This is an example of analyzing and evaluating an existing facility against the district's curriculum goals and program goals that they had across their there are 8 schools, I think, in that district. So again, we're just trying to be very mindful of being able to give clear optics for you to share with community, as well as for everyone in the district to understand. So, very easy check, a green check is that you're meeting your goal, and a red X is that you've got a deficiency somewhere. So we can easily go through the different facilities and see how to address those. Again, similarly with a capacity evaluation, we're looking across all the schools within a district, and we can easily see where you have schools that are working efficiently in green, some that might be underutilized in blue, and those that are overcrowded in the red. And as Alan mentioned, we can come up then with, once we have gathered all of our data and taken a look at the evaluations, we can go through some if-then scenarios for each of the different problems that or even just by facility that we're looking at. So, in this case, they were looking to bring kindergarten back into all of their elementary schools. So looking at their demographics, they could decide to just wait for a while, or they could go ahead and move forward, or continue being a 1 through 5 school, but make a few adjustments to meet their curriculum needs, or go ahead and make the plunge early for their K through 5. So we can look at those different options for the high school and the middle school for your specific situations. And then from that, we collaboratively review all of those options and create a document, as Alan said, that's a living document, but it phases work out over time so that we understand what the expenditure is going to be, and weave in the facility assessments at the same time and work out those so that it's all combined and together. So we're just ending again on the schedule slide, but Alan and I are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
A question for both of you, and actually maybe Tim or Kyle, this might be your domain too. You mentioned community input several times in this process. What have you seen that normally look like in other places where you've done this?
It really can run a wide range, and particularly in Northern Illinois, there's been a real increase in sophistication of that. Probably one of the most meaningful in the last several years is there's a series of companies that specialize in creating scientific surveys. So the problem for all of us is we're too close to the school, and I'd make the same statement for everybody in this room. We understand schools, we value schools. That's great, and that's useful input. In reality, we want the input from everybody who doesn't know about that. We really want to engage the likely voters in a way that we can understand what they can understand and what they can support. The survey information we've been using lately is really pretty amazing. It can be very specific in terms of what has support, what doesn't, and that doesn't mean no. That just means you have to put some effort into describing it and helping people understand that. People who don't deal with the schools, people who don't have students, those are the harder ones to reach, as you can imagine. But with that data, you can really see the level of understanding. You can see how the understanding is different in different parts of the community with great specificity. It's really interesting. And you can understand things that you might not value, they'll really value. And the ability to kind of combine projects can be really effective in that. So you don't need to guess what people will support. You can actually know. Again, literally within percentages. So that there's two things. Obviously, useful to get public support, but it's also useful to see what is important to people. I mean, some of it just isn't obvious. We're too close to it, and they really look at it differently. And to be able to understand that, and that data is really valuable for new board members, new superintendents. That's really important data, because it can go beyond the building as well. You can really get into kind of bigger, more general issues. So we strongly encourage that. We're not ready for that yet. We want to kind of look at those options. And to be honest, it isn't really as expensive as it used to be. They're really quite efficient with it. It is interesting to see, though, that you don't want, it sounds counterintuitive, you don't want to survey everybody. You really want to get a scientific snapshot of all the likely voters. So you don't want to have everybody from one community. You don't want to have all men. You don't want to have all computer savvy people. And it's really hard, and that's really the art of surveying, is to really get that accurate blend of your community so you can do that. So you don't need a ton of data to do it, but it needs to be the right kind of data. So that's something as we get deeper on, I think we should explore those options.
Thank you.
we're anxious to get started, really get rolling here. We're really looking forward to it. I think you're a complex, changing district, which makes it all the more interesting to do a master plan, but really looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Our next presentation is our new superintendent profile by School Exec Connect.
Kevin O'Mara and Brian Barnhart here from School Exec Connect to give the profile report from the surveys and community forums that everyone participated in.
Good evening. We want to include your stakeholders here, so we're going to turn this a little bit. We'll direct all of our statements to you, take any questions from the board, but we want to recognize your stakeholders here as well, so thank you for attending. And I'm going to turn over to my partner, Dr. Barnhart here, who will go through our PowerPoint. And at the end of tonight's discussion, we will send all the documents to you, all the data. It's, I think, very, very important that you use the data as a board to find out how your community feels. Things are going here. There's lots of information there it's going to be separate from the profile that we've developed on your behalf of the new superintendent. But I'll leave those copies with you today, but I'll send them to Tim and Kyle and Ryan tomorrow as well, so you can use those for whatever you like, set goals with the superintendent and so forth. If you have any questions at the end, of course, we'll take those. But I'm going to turn over to Dr. Barnhart.
Good evening. Nice to be with you again. As Kevin set up, we have been busy over the last month speaking with and hearing from your school community folks. And we do this because we want to start with a bit of a fresh slate, kind of a clean slate, as we are trying to develop the new superintendent profile. The profile being sort of the guiding document that Kevin and I will use as we interview to present the slate to you for consideration for you as you interview candidates, and as we like to say, for your ultimate new superintendent. It's a great snapshot as to where the community is right now regarding District 301. So we felt really good about the fact how the last month has gone. Between 4 focus groups, 2 open forums, and the community survey, we received a lot of data. We saw 81 people in person, and you had 782 responses to the survey. That is outstanding, excellent. And that's great for us because what we will report, we'll report the profile at the end, but as Kevin said, you'll get a lot of information between now and the last slide, which overviews the profile. It's a lot of great information on your district from your stakeholder standpoint. So everything we report here are themes and trends that we heard in all those surveys and the people we spoke with, as opposed to one-off kind of comments, okay? Before we even start, we always know, almost every single district we work with, we can almost identify some things that will be said to us. The new superintendent has to be a great communicator, needs to be visible, approachable, student-centered. We're going to hear those things all the time. You'll see a lot of that in the themes that we present tonight, but we believe you will see your district very clearly with some very unique feedback that we received through the process, and we'll try to highlight some of those. So first of all, we've talked about the number of people that we spoke to, and again, we're presenting themes throughout all of our comments tonight. The first thing that we did, we kind of asked parallel questions in the survey, and when we spoke to people directly, we want to know this. First of all, what are the strengths of District 301? So very quickly, I've tried not to read to you, but give you some highlights. First of all, we heard this almost as the very first comment in all the groups we spoke with, and it was the #1 response to the survey. You've got the right people on the bus. People feel good about the people who are in your building. Staff and teachers, people feel really great about. Classroom, that is semi-unique to be that #1 strength. The second thing, classrooms are places that are nurturing for kids. Very unique, honestly, from a strength standpoint for a district, something you should feel especially good about.
This is the first time I've heard this mentioned with the formation of the focus group and survey results. This is amazing. The climate culture in your buildings is amazing, and it's been recognized by all your stakeholders.
The third bullet point, technology integration, also something that does not bubble near the top as it did in District 301. #4, our district does a good job in prepping our graduates to be successful in multiple paths post-high school. Very unique is the next comment, and we heard this comment in the discussions that we talked with people face to face. It is a district whose culture is improving. We know some things, some challenges the district has gone through. There is a sense from the people we talk to, there has been stability and there is upward trajectory when it comes to culture within the district. That is a major strength, and from our vantage point, that allows us to talk to candidates in a different way about being the next superintendent in District 301. Special education services. Very rarely do we hear about special education services as a positive. Special education in the country is a challenge across the board. Very rarely do the services provided to kids bubble to the top that ends up being a strength in the district. Is it perfect? Probably not, but we heard a lot of positives about special education delivery in the district. And finally, this is a very unique piece that we heard from a strength standpoint, and that's the upward trajectory and the potential for greatness in the district. We heard that time and time again. We're in need of a great superintendent because we're ready to really take off. Those are the strengths that we heard from a theme standpoint, talking to people and looking at survey results. Lots to be feeling good about. Softness areas, areas that are challenges right now. Vision. Clearly defined vision and direction for where we are going in the future. Vision, vision, vision. We heard it, we read it in the surveys. Leadership. We heard quality of leadership and we heard stability of leadership. I think that's probably why we are here mostly, to be honest with you. District finances are a real issue, and we hear about finances all the time. But the unique commentary about a future referendum, again, came through in regular commentary. We learned a lot about the history of referenda in the district, and we also heard trust, relationships, and a new foundation will need to be set by the new superintendent before a referendum, something we heard as a future challenge. Opportunities for students outside of the traditional classroom, we heard as a very strong theme from some people we spoke with. Greater rigor needed in the curriculum, very interesting. If we would have added one more strength, the next strength that bubbled to the top in the survey was, we love our curriculum, but it's also a challenge. We do see that fairly regularly because curriculum is in the eyes of the holder or the beholder. We saw it as both a strength and as a need for improvement.
It certainly needs some examination. You're meeting the needs of the students now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever their outcome will be as far as life after 301.
The second last bullet is specifically unique to District 301, and that is, in the recent past, loud voices seem to have put the district into a reactive rather than proactive position, and this has not benefited our students. I read that bullet to you. It's the only one I've read to you because it is specifically unique in feedback we've gathered from many, many districts. And then the final challenge, district facilities. The last two speakers in front of us, facility condition assessment, master planning, seems like there's some focus already on the facilities and the future of facilities. We learned a lot about that in our discussions. Feel free at any time, board, to ask questions as we're rolling through these. First year priorities, also a theme of questions in the survey, and as we spoke to folks, what should the new superintendent focus on in his or her first year? Trust, building relationships, building trust is number one. Came through loud and clear to us, and that's why it's on the top. Improve student academic achievement and growth, top priority in District 301. We hear that typically, no matter the district we work with. Number two, we hear that regularly as a priority in the first year. Financial needs, including facilities, again, a theme we hear a lot about. You've already talked about that a little bit in your meeting before we started to present. Second bullet from the bottom, that clear vision and the communication of that vision moving forward and building consensus around that vision, again, was a theme we heard said to us in lots of different ways. And then the final bullet, is around that referendum. It has to be a first-year priority for the new person, and that is setting that foundation. Just so you know, we heard a lot of that's going to take some time and focused effort on the part of your new leader. Desired superintendent characteristics. Again, many of these you will see in a lot of our presentations. Some of these are fairly unique as well. Again, that visionary leader, it's redundant, but this person needs to be a visionary leader and needs to be able to build consensus and communicate that vision across the district. The trustworthiness and the relationships came through time and time again as far as those characteristics. The ultimate people person. We heard the phrase, the new person has to come in and really like people, and he or she has to be both the mayor and the sheriff. I don't know if that is specific verbiage that's said here, but we heard it 6 or 7 times in just talking to the people that we talked to and all across the group. So you guys, I'm seeing some looks like, yep, you've maybe heard that in the past. We heard it quite a bit in talking with folks. Visibility, approachability, all of those things. Interesting, understands and can leverage finance, facilities, and politics. We actually heard politics more than we would normally hear it, both in the spirit of referendum and consensus building, but we also heard it multiple times in the superintendent needs to take more of a role in attracting business to the community. Our own opinion is we're not really sure that's under the auspices of a superintendent's responsibilities, but we heard it multiple times, and it was around the topic of politics, so we report it to you because we heard it multiple times. Instructional leadership, data-informed decision-making, we hear that regularly. Again, an educator who can do these things is that second last bullet. And then very specific and very unique to our work so far in District 301. The next leader needs to be somebody who wants to be here, who wants to stay here, and wants to see the vision through multiple iterations of his or her leadership. Somebody who wants to be here and will stay here. That will very much guide our conversation, the rest of our conversations as we look at candidates. Survey highlights very quickly, 78% of the people who responded were parents, 14% were staff. Top strengths, you've heard about them, the quality of the teaching staff and the positive learning environment in District 301 classrooms. Top areas for improvement, vision and quality of leadership. You've already heard all of those previously. And then the superintendent profile, again, redundant. This is the profile. This will be, this has been and will be our continued focus on our questions as we talk to candidates and you use the way you see fit. Visible, approachable, relational communicator, financial acumen, and an understanding of how that will be needed to address facility needs. That visionary forward thinker who can communicate and build consensus around the vision. New superintendent should provide instructional leadership based in data, best practice, and accountability. Early priorities will include those financial needs, facility needs, and enhancing communication for all stakeholders. And then above all, successful candidate will be a long-term student-focused community leader who listens, collaborates, and ensures every child feels supported and that 301 is their place. Again, we will use this, continue to use this as we talk to candidates. We will present a slate to you. You use this as you see fit. And then we also strongly recommend that it is both posted to your website, which I know you've planned and are planning meetings, also share it with the ultimate new superintendent. That was meant to be a relatively quick run-through of a lot of data. Now we'll slow down, take any questions or comments that you might have.
33 right now, 33. That's how many people have applied. We've been doing some heavy-duty recruiting, and I think you've got a good field. Brian and I are interviewing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think we've got 17 scheduled, and we do all face-to-face. So we're going to bring you the person. We want you to have a tough decision. Our slate of 5 to 7 that we plan to present fit this profile that we developed after talking to your stakeholders and getting these survey data. So thank you. Any questions?
I know it's posted on our website and everyone can see, but can you explain what the next step is, what the process is?
So next steps is to have the district release the profile to the public. We will reach out to all the candidates who have applied and release the profile to them as they prepare for next steps. Our individual next steps are to interview 15 to 17 individuals that we're starting to talk to already next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, probably into the evening. A week from tonight, we will deliver in closed session people, 5 to 7 people's names that we feel are good fits for this district, that we've interviewed, checked references on, and so forth. We will also do what's called an interview workshop with the Board of Education, again in closed session, give you some suggested questions, give you some do's and don'ts, and talk about scheduling the 5 to 7. And we've already talked about those dates. I don't have them in my head right now, but those are dates that you would interview those 5 to 7 candidates. After you deliberate, you would pick 3 finalists, interview those 3 finalists, perhaps, and we would recommend a couple of committees that would give you feedback prior to the board's interviews of those 3 finalists. I know the board has not yet made that decision. And then pick your finalists and have us do a complete background check, criminal, civil, tort, transcript, degree status, and so forth. So Burlington is not called the next Des Moines, Iowa.
You kind of rubbed around the edges a little bit on some uniqueness from the challenges and the attributes. What's one thing on both sides of the coin that you think this board should know based on all this information you took?
Go ahead, Brian, you take this one.
I'll throw a couple of my hunches. Kevin could add to this. I think the need for hiring a person who can immediately come in and connect with people, build that trust, have people believe that he or she will tell the good and the bad as it is connected to building the vision for the future. It's a consensus builder like that. Everybody wants that. The emphasis that we heard in talking to your folks was it was a 10 on a 10 scale. So that piece I think jumps out at me. The other part is there is a plead from the people we spoke with. Didn't come through quite as much in the survey, but absolutely in talking to people that this person needs and wants to be here for the long haul. Double-digit years would be outstanding because we only put themes in. The belief of the people we talk to is you guys are going from here to here soon, and you're just in need of a superintendent who can help guide the district there. Like, we heard that with passion from the folks we talked to. Those are the 2 things that jump out to me.
I think the other thing that is super important here is because you got so much potential and a creative culture, climate, and people who really want the best for their kids and families, the vision is very important. They've got to be able to articulate and engage everyone as to where are we headed and why. I think that's a little confusing right now in 301. If you ask different stakeholders, they give you different responses about where you're headed. I think that needs to be articulated more clearly, and you need the right leader to help that process move along.
So when you said, you just made those comments about, you heard it not in the survey, but from people you talked to. So you talked to 81 people, 7 of whom weren't teachers or staff. So you talked to 74 people, 74 staff and admin, and that's what they said, right?
I think it was 61.
Several of those,
61.
however,
In the focus
are
groups.
Burlington residents as well.
Yeah.
Sure, but I just wanted to clarify the group of people
Yes.
that you spoke with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just, yeah.
Is the 33 applicants you have, is that a common number? Is that high, low?
It's high.
That is high.
It's an attractive place.
Are you seeing high numbers elsewhere, or is that because 301 is attractive? Like, what's the seasonality of superintendents in Illinois right now? Is there a turnover or changing of the guard happening, that there's a lot of movement within the state, or is 301 attracting
I
a
would
high
say
number?
Tim and Kyle would be able to jump in on this. But 10, 15 years ago, when I became a 20 years ago, when I became a superintendent, it was much more attractive to be a superintendent. Now, it's hard for someone to say to themselves and to their family, hey, I want this role, where everything I do is spotlighted, positively or negatively, and on several different modalities of social media. You take a lot of heat as a superintendent. And you're responsible for a lot of stuff. It's a big job, it's an important job, but it's not as attractive as it used to be. We used to get 50 or so applicants for every job. Where you are right now with the number of applicants is probably twice what we average.
Really?
And twice the average for other firms in this area, in the Midwest area. You go to Texas, they might have 4 people apply.
Yeah, I'm involved in other districts through work, and some of them have single.
Yes, that's not as typical.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging. Plus, you were out in front of the game a little bit. I mean, people resign all year long. It used to be like that, and Tim and Kyle and Brian can attest to that. But it's not atypical anymore, where people leave in November or February, whatever, in the middle of the school year, or get kicked off by the board for cause or without cause.
I've heard from 2 different recruiters from 2 different firms, actually sharing names and asking for some feedback. We're out front to that last piece. We're several weeks ahead of where they're at, and I think that will help. Other questions, comments, anything else that we can clarify? Kevin's got us on a really tight weekend interview schedule, so we'll nail that down, and we'll look forward to presenting the slate to you Monday night closed session. Thank you.
Besides Ryan and Tim and Kyle, should I be sending these reports to anyone else at the table? Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like it electronically.
Okay, so are the board members' emails on your website?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'll send it to all the board. Is that cool, Tim? Kyle, everybody here?
Yes.
Everyone's cool with that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you guys again, sir. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you. Don't get up, don't get up.
Thank you.
Don't get up. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
Everyone's saying good things about you, too.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
not kidding.
So thanks. As we go on, our next, there's some changes that are occurring and particularly in 28, 29 in regards to the language requirements for graduation that Stephen's going to talk about. But also, in addition to that, one of the things, and you saw a little bit in the presentation, I think it's still timely based on some of the architecture conversations, is looking where are those opportunities for expanding opportunities for students in the school. And so this is partially looking at the language, some language changes, but more importantly, looking at schedules and what opportunities could exist in regards to that. Committees have been meeting. There's been some committee work. This is not a final. You're not voting tonight. This is just to put some information out there to start begin thinking about some of these things as we move forward. And we let the technology re-kick in again. So.
Do you want me to stop trying to connect, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to talk without?
We can talk without. We'll
Okay.
talk without.
No, I just. All right, so today I'm going to talk about the bell schedule presentation, and really the kind of big overarching concept that is happening is how do we value an additional period? While a piece of it is going to be that foreign language component, the bigger question really is the fact of what could that next period provide for our students from 6th grade through 12th grade. And so as we continue to do that. So the two things are, we focus obviously here on students, right? Students first. So how is this going to be better for our students and prepare for their future needs and choices, allowing some type of exploratory and or elective, however you classify those experiences, starting early, 6th grade, all the way through, so that when they walk across that stage at the end, that we can honestly say and look in their eyes and say, we've done a great job preparing them for the world of work, of which we know is ever changing. So just keep that in mind. And then the second part is in 28, 29 fall school year, that is when the foreign language mandate by the state of Illinois, which has been out there for a long time actually, that actually becomes a requirement. And what I mean by a requirement, it's a graduation requirement. So I want you to keep that in mind. I am continuing to try to connect. Give me one second. So in that mindset, there's two targets kind of. The initial academic period, okay? Who's the target? 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade, providing them an opportunity to kind of, I'm reading a little bit more than what I was planning on to do from the slides, but because I thought you were going to be reading this, so I apologize for that side of it, but that career exploration point, opening up classrooms, the fact if you add an additional period to the Bell schedule, example at the high school, every science lab opens up for an opportunity to put a class in there as compared to right now.
You keep talking.
And so that concept is also unique in the fact of we have growth going on, but yet there's more and more science classes required because our incoming classes are larger than our outgoing classes. Therefore, I either have to turn to Dan and have a conversation about, the facilities and some of the struggles that we have, and investing in trying to convert a classroom currently to add water, gas, electric, and all the, let's just call it science, because that's pretty easy to connect with. That's a pretty big expense. But by adding an additional period, every single room that is a science lab has one additional period for the day. So if we were to have 8 labs, we just gained 8 possibilities to plug another class into versus trying to get the opportunity to figure out how locked we are right now. Because we use them 100% of the time right now, just to be clear. There's no, per se, gap of like, oh, we just leave science rooms empty. They're jam-packed. Yes, it's not the same for our general classrooms, but it does allow us the flexibility to schedule things a little different. So this concept of adding a period is not solely beneficial to just the students having an opportunity for learning, but it's also, there is some stuff that impacts the, is this me or somebody else? Can you go? So on that side, the scheduling piece totally changes. Yes, I'm fully aware that this is going to impact hiring. If you add an additional period, the students have to have somebody to be teaching them, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then there is no key solution that every student, it's going to meet the needs of every single scenario of what their wants and needs are for the perfect world. There still will be students trying to be like, I want more, I want more, I want more. That's just a fact of a reality. So, foreign language, we've got the class of 2032 is the actual class that must meet this requirement. That they will enter in year 28, 29, that fall. They'll graduate in 32. But if you go backwards, that is our 6th grade class as of today. So that means next year, that class will be what? 7th graders. That means we have 1 year, per se, that we could wait to put that mandate in, or we could try to be 1 year ahead of every other school district that's trying to meet that mandate, if you think about it on the hiring side. Foreign language teachers already are super valuable. There's a shortage, okay? So we want to be respectful to the fact of this is not a, per se, just a curriculum thing. We have to, communicate with our HR department and make sure they're on board, that they have the time to be able to search. It's nice to hear some of these other stories about the attractiveness of maybe the superintendent. We'd also like to attract teachers too, and retain teachers and those types of things, which we've heard. So that's another thing. So High school graduation is something that will change in the future. That's not part of, per se, something we have to do today, but I'm just going to highlight that that question is going to come back to you later. And then we also want to make sure we really plan to support all our students. This is not just, when they say all students, there's going to be special ed students that have to meet this requirement. There's not a magic wand to exempt, students on our choice. So this is just an example of where we're at. If you look at the left side of the screen as you're looking at it, that's what we're currently at. If you look at the right-hand side, the only difference is the fine arts, foreign language, career tech ed on the left-hand side that says 0.5 has been changed. You have a foreign language requirement of 2. We still leave the 0.5 in there. That takes us back to 22.5. If you remember back a couple years ago, we used to have 22.5 credits required. That was for the class of 2023. And then we lost that period, and then we had to reduce. And so for the classes of 2024, we went down to 21.5. For the classes of 2025 and 2026, we went down to 20.5 because there was a schedule change that occurred at the high school level. So I'm just trying to clarify that even by going back to the 22.5, this is not something that we haven't done before on the requirement side. But we'll get to that point later when we need to talk specific about graduation requirements. For foreign language itself specifically, our students currently, their first offering is during 8th grade. We offer German 1 and Spanish 1 at the 8th grade center. Not all of our students take it, but it does start there. The concept here would be, if we're going to do this, if we're going to meet the mandate, the idea of consecutive learning when it comes to a foreign language is actually really important. Imagine, yes, it is possible to take a foreign language as a 9th grader and then wait, and then wait, and then be like, oh, I got to meet that requirement. I got to take that as a senior. The gap in between there and the amount of learning loss that occurs could create a lot of problems for students being able to successfully complete that. It'd basically be like going back to Spanish 1, German 1. That's going to create a problem. So there is some merit to the fact of consecutive years, and we want to plan appropriately that we're going to support those kids to get through the requirements successfully as they need it. Offer up to 4 languages. Again, I underline offer there because they're electives. It's a choice. While the mandate is not a choice, the students still get to pick the language of their choice. So by providing that variety, it's saying to the community, we're putting something out there for students to choose what they really want to engage in. We have to have plans for intervention for the foreign language because it is a requirement. And then we want to be able to work with our students to make sure they're getting the credit. So that 8th grade year, I just want you to make sure that right off the bat, you understand that Spanish 1, that German 1, and technically Math 1 right now are offered at CMS, and they are high school credit. That's not new. We've been doing it for years. On the bottom, it's just kind of where we were at. We've already surveyed. We started a couple years ago with the SAC committee, have been talking about this topic. SAC is our subject area committee, but we also surveyed parents. So 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th graders were surveyed last year, and all their parents were given an opportunity to fill out a survey, and we used that data. We took that data. We then took the steps to make sure it aligned to the fact that those top foreign languages align to post-secondary opportunities. We don't want to just set up students with like, oh, you can take this, and then it's really hard to find it if you fall in love with that foreign language. We want to make sure that we're aligned with ECC and our universities that are the most popular top choices for our students. This is just the survey results of all the students. This is not parents. So you can see there's 1,025 unique, when you filtered, some kids took it twice, sometimes 3 times, but unique, okay, individual responses. You can see where the breakdown is. So you have Spanish, you have German, you have French, and you have American Sign Language as the top 4. On all the surveys, they actually, for some strange reason, aligned, whether it was 6th grade, if we just looked at that pocket, 7th grade, or 8th grade combined, and the parent survey. All of them align to these 4. The next one after this is Chinese Mandarin, but then you start seeing we gave students the option to actually write in the language they wanted. This was not a we picked for them scenario. No, it was open. So this is really an open-ended look on what our students are looking for. On the exploratory side, if the period, You choose to go that direction. It's important for us to recognize how's that going to impact kids. It's not just in foreign language. It's the fact of career exploration. It's the fact of how do they align core content material and answering the questions of when am I going to use this? Why do I need to know this? Those, students have those questions all the time. And sometimes those electives can bring in some of the answers that they're looking for. It also can create an idea that they grapple to really enjoy it a little differently. And it sometimes could affect our attendance rates because they're looking forward to going to this class, And so we just want to make sure that we're able to consider that. On the high school side, as you get towards your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, a month ago, Terry Stroh came, right, and presented about some of the completers and the CTE stuff. I just want to make sure you understand that if we want to provide that opportunity and continue to allow students to have that ability to be completers, it's a positive thing, not just academically, but on preparedness. So that's what the college career and pathway endorsements also ties into, that our students have the ability to get through a series of classes, and it's actually shown on their transcript. So just thinking about that side of it, we also want to break down misconceptions on some of our career choices. We got to respect our trades. We got to respect our workers out there in other areas that are working just as hard. They're making actually sometimes more money. There are disparities of information out there that might not be accurate with our students, and we want to do a better job on making sure the students are being a little bit more understanding of those types of career options. So in the end, we're gonna kind of step back and think, big goal is Bell schedule. That's the big question. It's not per se foreign language. It's not per se CTE. It's the fact of what is our current Bell schedule versus what our potential Bell schedule could be, and how could that benefit kids. Currently in green, you'll see categories of what we're currently offering by grade level. So this is specific to PKMS. Currently in 6th grade, you can see the 4 options that we offer. In 7th grade, you can see the 4 options. Each of these options are 9 weeks long. If we were to add an additional period in the day, we would have to come up with 4 new offerings if we stayed with the model of 9-week courses to plug these in. None of these offerings have been decided. Teachers are putting input in to be able to create which one of these would be the courses. That's what we use our subject area committee. And teachers have been doing a ton of work already. And I'll be honest, I do want to share, there's a positivity out there with the teachers right now, that their input is possibly going to be taken and move forward with these ideas. We kind of have them at a pause right now because you don't want them to work and develop all this stuff that's going to be a no. So they understand the balances of like, it has to come here, we got to present this, but being able to show that now we have that ability. So it's not that we won't have ideas, it's the fact of that's how many more opportunities kids would have in just those 2 grade levels. I do want to make a notation here, choir and band are in our task schedule. It's a different period. That is different than the hours that are being explained for PKMS and CMS. This is CMS's current outlook on the kind of schedule scenario. If a student is in a foreign language, math or German, they do not currently get an offering on one of those electives that you can see in the first column. So they take, if you're not in the foreign language, you take a semester of art, and you have 2 9-week automation, robotics, and flight and space. So that's the scenario right now. If there was an additional period, you can see right there, 4 more 9-week offerings could be. Again, not decided what those would be, but they would be able to continue that continuum of exploration to get ideas of what they like and what they don't like, which is sometimes very valuable. At the high school level, it's just an additional period, and so that side, 9 through 12, it's 1 more. That mandate does roll into the high school because you can't do 2 years of foreign language in the middle school, so you will have an impact. The next couple of slides we're going to go through are going to talk about what our current students and teachers have and how that impact would be. So here you can see at PKMS and CMS, there are 4 44-minute classes and 2 66-minute classes in a student schedule, 1 task that's 36 minutes, a 30-minute lunch, and they're using 3-minute passing periods at PKMS. The proposal is to align classes, meaning those 44-minute classes are going to get a little longer, 66-minute classes are going to get a little shorter, but all classes, okay, with the addition of 1 more, because it'll be 7 instead of 6, would be 50 minutes. Now, on this proposal, there's a 17-minute homeroom, a 30-minute advisory, lunch and the passing period. So it's balancing that out, but you got to find the time somewhere to be able to add that period in. So within the teaching side of it, currently teachers are assigned either 4 sections of 66 minutes or they're teaching 6 sections of 44 minutes plus 1 task. That equals 300 minutes of contact minutes daily and a 30-minute lunch. The proposal for teachers, you can see here, goes back and forth. You've got one that has teach 5 sections. They're 50-minute classes. That's 250 minutes. 1 advisory, 1 homeroom, contact minutes right around 297 minutes, and a 30-minute lunch. The proposal, another option would be, well, they teach 6, okay, but you got to be careful. 6 is going to be 300, but you're losing at the middle school grade levels that task and homeroom advisory concept, which those kids going through maturity and changing and that type of stuff, being able to, that climate side, which again, some of the other presentations are talking about, you got to consider what the pros and cons of that are, if that makes sense. This is just graphic pictures to represent possible schedules that the staff has been working on from the middle school, meaning a snapshot picture, but don't take it to heart that there's only going to be 1 lunch. That lunch could be, 5th hour or, things slide around. Even the advisory, technically they have the ability to say, oh, yes, we built it in there, but they could put advisory between 1st and 2nd hour and everyone has it. It's a common schedule is what they're trying to get to. They're trying to get to a schedule where no overlapping is occurring. Overlapping is when you end up using maybe a space and or staff that overlaps more than 1 period that creates this higher challenge. On the bottom, you can just see a picture of what the sample teacher and student situation is if they were teaching 6 sections. This can be very meaningful. This is a kind of an analysis done on PCAMS specific to core PE electives currently versus what would happen if we projected forward the number of sections that we need. And so if we go through this kind of quick, the green is on the first row is the number of current teachers at PCAMS for just those 3 areas. We did not include special education, and I'm going to, for real reasons. Special education is students are evaluated, and we must service them based off what their qualifications and things are. It's not an option. So me putting that up here is not going to help you can make a comparison. But if I go through here and say, okay, we know that the 1415 with 5 sections is actually the current number of 5th graders that will be entering 6th grade, meaning they're butts in seats today, no growth. We would be required to have 15 and 16 sections of those to actually teach every single student. That means the classes are the largest size for every single scenario. So it's really hard to do that, but I just wanted you to see that. So as you go across the screen, you'll see, okay, if it's the negative 6.8, negative 6.8, that is if a teacher's teaching 5. If you go, a teacher is required to teach 6, it's a negative 10. That means we're overstaffed, technically, in that column of core. If you go down, you'll see where PE and electives and stuff, those numbers go up that we're actually understaffed. We need more staff because those are those periods being added if there's an extra bill period put in. And so you can come down to the bottom, and that total number of teachers on the bottom, you start seeing the 38.58. You move over, you've got 3.42 additional teachers, then you've got a negative, then you've got a positive, then you got a negative. These are how much overall, if you were to add, what the change is. We're going to go to the next slide. And then on here, CMS is the same format. So you have to break down the information as how I explained before, current teachers in there. There is one more row in there for foreign language because 8th grade has the foreign language. For example, in foreign language, we can go there and say right now there's, and this is hard because it looks like there's 1.29, but it's by sections, like how many actual periods of it is being taught. We teach just over 50% of our current 8th graders. So if you go to the 3rd column, our current teachers are required to teach 6. You can see that we would need 1.18 more teachers to cover the other 40-some%, which combined, that is the 100% of all the sections, so that you can see how that works. Because you have to compare them to how many sections they really currently teach to what the proposal would be to be able to know how your positives and negatives go. But you can see your total again on the bottom, on positive and negative numbers. And then as you take these numbers, we're going to pause here for a second, that 2.21, and I'm going to ask you to go back one slide, we add that to 3.42. That means additional staff together for 6th through 8th grade is 5 point so many teachers at that grade level band. And so we're able to figure out across the board minimum numbers to a more feasible, realistic approach of how many sections we would need on current students with 0 growth, okay? And we know we have move-ins every year. We can jump ahead now. This is just the high school's current schedule, listed similar to the way the middle school's was. They currently, for students take 6 periods or have the ability to pick 6 classes. And I'm not mentioning the requirements, meaning they have to do core plus PE and that kind of stuff. But the proposal moving forward is 7 periods, 30-minute lunch. You can see the 3 different options that are there and some of the variety that could impact the students. Can we go one more? Teachers. So high school teachers already teach 5. There is no change. The minutes do have to change because if you're taking the same amount of time and you're trying to pull out to get one more period in there, you got to take minutes from somewhere. So you take them out of like every single class to make one more period. Therefore, there are adjustments to the numbers, but just trying to be very upfront with you, like there's going to be a change if that decision is made that direction. But again, it's about what's the value of that period versus not having it. There's going to be this slide, and the next slide are just graphic organizers, again, showing what has been shared as possibilities on the schedules that match with A, C, and D, so that you're able to see those visually. You'll see some overlap in those schedules. We are aware of that. So if you look at them, your yellow and, is that a pinkish? That's the second color. Those 2 blocks are locked together. The times are the same. But you will notice the green and the purple that's on the kind of, for you, far right. That will be, there is a slight difference because of the way lunches and that overlap occurs with some schedules. So students, like, imagine 50% of the building can be on one schedule, 50% can be on another schedule. Again, reducing the number of overlaps is a major goal of this whole project. We're going to move forward. Just to give you very raw FTE estimates, the idea of adding for 6th grade 1 period can almost be boiled down to the fact of how many kids there are divided by the max number of kids in a section, and you'll be able to see that these are based off the numbers for 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, which will be 6th, 7th, and 8th graders next year. These are the minimum number of teachers that we would need to have cover those classes. And that's just where we get the 14 sections that then get divided. You take those and add those up. You divide by whether it's 6 sections or it's 5 sections, you'll see we need 7.33, or it goes up to 8.8. And so then you're able to calculate out the 7.33 multiplied, and our multiplier is $66,000. That is the kind of base level, first brand new teacher, their benefits, all the stuff at the lowest level. So at minimum, you're going to end up spending that amount for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade combined. If it was 8 teachers, I'm trying to give you some stuff because if you add those boxes I was talking, the bottom 2 columns, you're going to start seeing that it's going to go from 5 all the way up to 10 point something. So I put 7.3 up to 10 number of teachers that would need to be hired, giving you that range of the 483 to 660. We go, yep, thank you. On the high school side, it's much harder to estimate. We can do if you add that many, 1 more period and you just divide out the number of students that are at the high school by the section dividing by 30, you can get some estimates on the numbers. But the twist on this is students at the high school level have a little bit more choice. So incentive, there's students that could actually have that. There's 711. I put a notation on this slide for you. So while the 57 sections would be possible by adding an additional period, we do not require, this would be requiring every single, like making the decision to add a period and then requiring every kid to be in a class would be, yes, $752,000. That's not what I'm trying to express here. I'm trying to express here that, you know what, you could have that on the max side, but the reality is you subtract that out, When we're moving to 711, it's really $420,000. Again, using $66,000. So your total summary for these ranges are on the next slide. You can see it ranges anywhere for the middle school and the high school with a total estimate range of $903,980 to 1.412 400 for the possibility of that investment, adding one period, and that is 7 grades. 3 for middle school, 4 for the high school. And so I wanted to put a little comparison on for this average. If you were to go, how much of an investment am I making or deciding about per grade level, because you're impacting every single student. On the low end, it's 129,140. On the high end, getting to that, we're going to require every high schooler to do it all the time, that kind of stuff. You're pushing the 201,000 per grade level to offer that to every single student. So there's a couple other key factors that we will be including. Obviously, transportation. We need to make this work. Transportation gets a say in, like, can we get the kids there on time? And then that next bus cycle for elementary, we do not want to negatively impact any other school. And we know that the buses take time to get out there and come back, so we want to make sure we're not adjusting that. District food service has been communicated about, can the schedules work with lunches and the ability to make the food and the rotation, because that's a lot of restocking a lot of kids real fast. So that's been a part of it. And then the actual number of FTEs, I'm using whole numbers. I want to make sure that it's clear. That does not mean that it'll always be a whole number, because it's based off the courses that they take. And there also will be crossover, so there might be more teachers, if you said yes to this, teaching 6th and 7th grade, teaching more than one scenario, that kind of stuff. So other questions that you have, but the big question we're asking ourselves is not band, not foreign language, not electives, what value do we see for students over that 6th through 12th grade span by adding an additional period?
You have to add time to the day. I mean, just quickly looking at the times, the high school, you're going to start them at 7:35 proposed?
So right now our students start at 7:58. We are adding, students are coming a little bit more early than what they are. So you're right. But our teachers on the 8-hour workday, it actually doesn't change the 8-hour workday, but yes, you are absolutely correct. Students would be coming a little early. When we had the additional period before, we started class at 7:15 a.m. at CHS. So we're still trying to manage the fact of what is best for kids, because there's information out there about, like, you wake a kid up and try to teach them at 6:30 in the morning, how much are you really going to get them? So we don't want to push that too hard, but at the same time, we want to be respectful to transportation on where can we be that is feasible. I don't know if that.
All of this fits, all these proposals fit within the union contract? Time, teacher time?
Yeah, I mean.
Be adding to the teacher's time. We won't be adding to their, 5.5 hours? Is that what it is?
8-hour day.
There-
8 hours.
it doesn't impact the 8-hour days.
And the contracted, there's 300.
There's 300 contact minutes, so as long as we don't go over 300 contact minutes, because it's up to 300 minutes, we're like that 297, the 285, like, we're getting there, but it doesn't violate that side of it.
Okay.
It doesn't, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say, we have worked out every single detail possible. That's why, like, transportation, we got to get them involved to be like, okay, what is the turnaround time between you dropping off high school, middle schoolers, and then going out? And so what that will push us to, what is the actual time? Like, will we be starting at 7:25?
Right, if they start earlier, though, it shouldn't affect elementary school.
Correct.
I mean, they just have more time.
That's the intent. Yes. But that's a really good question.
So middle school, 4466, what was the reason for 66 minutes for 2 periods? I think that's ELA and math, right?
It is ELA and math.
To get a basis, because our scores for the students in the high school weren't the best, so now we're gonna drop that down. What's that gonna do to our scores down the road? They're not gonna have that foundation in 8th grade. So now, I mean, I'm concerned about that.
Okay. Yep.
Majorly.
And I agree. There's going to be a change in maybe what is covered during that bell time, from bell to bell, which maybe there's not as much practice time happening within the 66 minutes or in the 50 minutes that could have happened in the 66 minutes. Or if there was reading time built into that schedule, we might have to be a little bit more communicative with our parents, saying, we used to have X number of minutes or this many average over a week. We really encourage you to sit down and make sure that the students are reading, that kind of stuff. So we got to be cognizant of that. But on the flip side, there's also information on how long can a student sit in a curricular area to be getting material, and actually it's actually sustaining that area.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why we moved away from block scheduling. 'Cause that was kind of long, but now in high school, you're going from 50 to what, 45?
46, I think, was one of them. One, I think, might have been a 45. If you can go back, so, there you go. 46, 45, two of them are 45s, one's a 46.
So my biggest question for CHS is, why can we not do this with the current schedule? To just require foreign language, hire the foreign teacher, forget about all the other things to offer kids in the exploratory classes in 8th grade, 7th grade. Just so they can't get everything they want. That was on your first slide. So now you have to take 2 foreign languages, 2 years of it. You're going to get 2 less electives.
Right, so the
bad,
flip,
so
you're
sad.
right, the flip side is like your business, your CTE, your CCPEs, that's gonna go away. We're not gonna have that stuff reported on a report card more than likely. So it's.
But you can still do that. I mean, just adding 2 periods of foreign language is not going to take all that stuff away.
But to be a completer and get your CCPE, you have to take a series of classes. It's not a one-year option. You have to complete usually 3 years of courses.
But
and
you can still
those-
explore those things without getting what you're talking about and still do things. Or we make AA optional so you don't have a study hall. And then you take a course there. I mean, I just don't know if it ultimately doesn't matter to me. My daughter's out, but I mean, she is in some CT classes, not dual credit classes. So she's exploring that. She has academic advisory. She did 4 years of foreign language. She got to do everything she wanted to do with the current schedule. So I don't understand. That expense is huge, and is all of that budgeted for whenever we want to implement this? Is it what effect will it have?
And it's
Other
the
than
question of
monetary.
What effect would it have, right? Because I think from a budgeting standpoint, no, because nothing has been decided yet, right? I think the other part of that is looking at what eventually ends up suffering as you add what I feel is valuable, right? I think world language are very important for kids to have for a number of reasons. I think that the other things that we've talked about are very important as well. What often happens, and I've talked to kids in other districts as well that have limited amount of opportunities, band, orchestra, well, we don't have orchestra right now, band, choir, right, suffer because kids have to make choices for things, and those are sometimes the things that end up canceling out, right?
And some of the other arts.
And some of the other arts too, right? Some of the CTE things can, because it depends on when I take the world language, right? And it's 2 years of world language really enough? No, it's not. I mean, it's a great start, right? But heck, we should be having, language starting in kindergarten, and we should have all, whatever. But
What year are we starting the world language?
eighth grade,
Okay.
which is what we do now, right? So that part doesn't, but we only have 60% of our students who are taking a world language currently. Is that number correct?
60-some, yeah.
60-something percent,
So
67%.
I know this is still kind of like in the pre-planning thing. That I was just trying to read the state mandate. Are they opting for like native speakers? Can you test out of a language? Is there?
You cannot test out to meet the graduation requirement. You could get a seal of biliteracy and take the test, but you still have to complete 2 years of foreign language to graduate from high school when this mandate goes in. Like, there's not a proof of competency in a certain thing, and that exempts you out. That is not. They then expect you to do another one.
You have to do a third.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but that's really how it's.
Up out of it, right?
If you speak Spanish and English, then you got to go learn German, yeah.
Right.
But But if you're German, you can take German. It doesn't mean you can't.
Oh,
mean,
yeah, I
it's
understand
paid.
that.
I mean, You just get this goofy requirement done.
Correct.
What
I mean, 2
about,
years is a goofy requirement, because like you said, 2 years is nothing. A college is gonna, oh, you went to 2 years? I mean,
But I don't disagree with what you were saying, Jeff, about, like, at some point it does become a choice, and a study hall is not a requirement. I mean, that's how it was when we were in school, that if you wanted to do some of that, you had to forfeit your study hall and potentially do more homework at home.
kids
As
leave
opposed to
anyway. They
changing
don't
the
even
schedule
go to
and add,
study
like,
hall. Or
This is a
academic.
big, I mean, you're talking a 7-figure expense, and, I mean, it's just to maintain potentially a study hall. We could still meet the requirement, but
this
you
isn't
force
to
those
maintain a
students to
study
make
hall.
choices, right?
They're calling academic advisory.
Or
But I just want to be clear, our students already have the ability to do what you're saying, and our student body is openly saying, this is not enough to prepare me for the future. I just want to be clear, like, that voice needs to be heard as well, you know, and even the speakers that were here, like, they're looking for more. So I don't want to lose that in the possibility. And then if we think about the spectrum of students that we service, we are talking about, yes, your most gifted students, your students that have the most challenges, and making sure everybody in between, because if we think about special education students that maybe have required minutes of resource time that they need to have help on, that student doesn't get the choice that we are talking about. That student will be told, no, I'm sorry, this is written into your plan. You must do this during this time. You don't get to even do the exploratory, depending on what that is. So I don't want to sugarcoat this as like, there is a way for our students to do this without any trouble. There are students out there that struggle to find the opportunity, to find the classes that they connect with, that brings them to school in a way that is meaningful.
Chad, I think I hear what, and both of you have kind of commented on this. I mean, I think some of it may be looking at that academic advisory period, right? From the way it's structured currently. I think those are other things. I think one of the things that we wanted to do today to at least, number one, get the board caught up on the world language thing. Just that's kind of the lowest priority in the sense, because it's going to happen, it'll happen. 60-some% of our students are already meeting that part of it. The other one is to start talking about, which was interesting, was actually within the survey results and in the conversations, was the opportunity for more things. We're going to hear next month from some other survey results from the students and regarding the, what would they like to take if they could take things, right? And so CEF and the athletic department put together a survey that was sent to students and to parents, and we'll be presenting that information. That'll kind of be on top of this. We wanted to get some information out today. Hey, don't be caught up in a guards in December, whatever time, and like, oh, we've never heard anything about this before. This just gives a great opportunity to start having some of these conversations. Where are the barriers to this? Is it 1.4 million? That's a big number. There's no question about that, right? Is it 700,000? And what are the other situations that are in play?
I think there's one other thing that we should mention that's not in the presentation, is comparing ourselves to surrounding districts or districts that are comparable districts and what they offer. And so it is not abnormal that these students have one more period. We're actually very lean on the side of what our students are allowed to do. So I don't want to fail to mention the fact that it's not that it's not possible. Jeff, you're actually correct. Like, you can pick and choose and get through all the requirements. That is true, factual. But if we go step back a little bit and be like, but what are others doing, and then how do we mark up against them and move forward? I think I just wanted to present this information here so that we have it in front of us to just start talking and discuss.
Yeah, I think what Kyle said. There is an impetus. My first day in the district, it was in the middle school. It's very difficult to schedule with our current structure between CMS and Bernal. It's a difficult thing. They're very restricted, and they're having overlap time, and it's been quite difficult for them. And it's just because we keep growing. And so that's something that I know Matt Newquist has talked about. He said since he's walked the district, it's been somewhat a struggle. And that was part of the reason why these discussions have been happening as well. That was not mentioned either, but there is something to be said about that.
And the space thing for classrooms is real. Like, I'm not talking about investing to build one science lab. I'm talking we might have to build multiple in a retrofit situation, which I'm not gonna put Dan on the spot to be like estimates on this, but those are not small investments. So while we might not consider this, we might get stuck in a situation we are spending dollars on solving another problem, if that makes some sense.
But that's the thing, these are FTE costs. This is people.
Mm-hmm.
What about space? We haven't even gone down that. I mean, if we do this, this would be done before we have the space.
Which is fine, because what it does is in the day, you open up every single classroom, physical space, to be able to move the chess pieces around to provide more opportunities, whereas right now, the chessboard, we just kept adding pieces to it. And there's less and less open blocks on there to be like, we can move this to here or here. But what we need is, we need classrooms to say, hey, by doing that, you need to add a block. And it's not one, you can't think of it as a linear one period. Those get spread throughout the entire day, so that CMS, PKMS, the high school has the ability to say, oh, we do have an open room like here or here to make that work.
It does help with room utilization by having more periods in the day allow greater room utilization and consistent schedules.
Yeah, without overlapping.
We share teachers. Yes.
Without overlap.
Where
Yeah.
someone said, I'll cover you for 8 minutes, while I'm finishing up over here, then I'll get over here. And, you know, we've got a great staff that is willing to do that. We've got great kids that I know would so, I know what maybe me and my friends would have done if we had 8 minutes flex time at that age in middle school. That might have been interesting. So kudos to the group that are making this work. But it's coming to a point of it's starting to get really difficult for our middle school principals to really kind of make that work. I think this mostly was driven from the middle school, and the high school said, yes, we see the value as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think the high school still saw value, because the problem is, when the shift happened, that was alluded to, like, there was a lot of like, why? Why did this happen? How did we get to this? Numbers started disappearing, choice started disappearing, and now there is a nervousness about 2 more classes coming in as a requirement, that will have a domino effect as well. It's hard to predict what that would be, but you're spot on. There's nothing, all of your comments that you're all making are accurate, and it's just, where do we go? And what do we feel is best for that long term? Because this is not a solution per se of next year. This is a solution of where do we want to be a decade from now? Because curriculum,
and say, I'm not against it. The expense, first and foremost.
Yeah.
B, space, you say is not an issue, but we are growing no matter what people say. I mean, other districts, sure, they might offer more, but it doesn't matter. People are still moving in here. So, I mean, sure, it would be great to offer more. I'd love to, my kid went through German, love to offer that starting in kindergarten. Like you said, I think foreign language is great. 60% of our kids are doing it already under what we have currently. So we have to figure out something for 40%. I don't know. I mean, if we can figure out the expense, Dana can do her magic, that'd be great to do.
That's a lot.
1.4 million bucks is a lot of money.
And again, I'm going extreme there. I'm trying to.
No, yeah, because
Hey,
usually things are more expensive than you think. So, I mean,
These are not one-time costs.
It's also just pure body count for staff.
right.
Like, I mean, even if Dana waved her magic wand, and it's like, okay, then we have to go find 15 teachers, 10 teachers, and then you have to retain those 10 or 15. Like, there's a whole staff, people side of this too.
Yeah.
If we stay with our current bell schedule, what do you see some of the problems and challenges we'll face 10 years from now?
Well, honestly, like, we don't have, our students would struggle having the ability to appropriately select what future careers might be like, because it takes time for them to pick and choose, and I find value in students having the opportunity to be like, I don't like this. I don't want to go there. The way expenses are going up on, and I'm not saying parents have to pick up the bill on post-secondary, but those expenses, the more we can help people know generally where they're going, I think that's a benefit too to our community. So I'd say long-term, with how technology and things are evolving and what jobs might be, the more exploratory as possible to get them, the better they might be informed to make those choices that financially help the families out, but it doesn't help the district out per se on the building side. Space, the growth thing Jeff mentioned, it's here. It's not going to end until another solution presents itself on that side of it. But to me, it's the well-balanced student is my biggest concern. How much pressure are we forcing on young minds as they're trying to go through this experience of learning and continue to keep the love of learning happen and it fun and enjoyable, that we can turn around, that people are coming through our system saying, no, I'm proud to be a 301 grad that had a fantastic experience, and I would back any educational facility for the rest of their life, versus people who have a negative experience, and then for the rest of their life, I'm not going to, when asked, step up to be like, I'll do this, because that happens. I'm not saying we're doing it. I'm just saying, like, you said 10 years. I just, it's a pressure. I think about a pressure cooker. We already have pressure. It's just going to get worse. So.
And do we have is there any data out there, if you've come across it, that like, say, 66 minutes of math and ELA is more beneficial than, say, the 45 or the 50, or is there more of a sweet number? Because sometimes we can just add more time and it doesn't really improve the quality of what's going on, or the grades and the output of it.
I think that's a very good point, and I will say that, again, this was years ago in Lake Forest. We had a double period of language arts. And Lake Forest is a great school district. I mean, people, well supported parents, smart kids, decent scores, test scores. We went to one period instead of two. And your scores are going to drop, everything's going to fall off, you're not going to do. Interestingly, they did not drop. They actually maintained and continued going up. Because something, and I think that Stephen said this, a lot of it depends on what's happening within that time period, right? Now, if you get every math and language arts teacher, all of them will be here saying, we need the time, we need the time. And I'm not gonna fight with them about that. Everyone's entitled to that opinion. Is there research out there about time? I don't know that there's anything solid that would say 50 is better than 53 and a half, right?
No, we could do. We could take a look, I don't know when one's a 66. We could take a look at our internal data to say, look,
Right,
during the implementation, we've got the pre and the post.
Yep.
Before, here was our score. For the last 5 years, we've done the 66. We've seen incremental. Problem is the assessments have changed.
Right.
The bars of meeting have changed over those years. But I think we could maybe, Stephen, you're the mind here. You think that that's a good?
You need something else to do.
I need something else. Thank you. Yeah, we can find out that kind of stuff, but I would have gone the same route of, like, we got moving targets on assessments and that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's hard to say that. I do want to say that we want to do a better job of supporting our faculty, and our faculty, what they have the time with their students, and some of the resources that we're providing, the building thinking classrooms and stuff on how to think about teaching students today differently than the way we taught or were taught, that kind of stuff. I think that's critical, and bringing them those tools, because the material is important, but how you get the material to our kids today might be more important to get it to stick and make the growth of what we want to have versus what you are saying, which is a valid point, is the minute that we're talking about really the big factor.
So then do you require PD for those specific teachers, that they learn a new way to teach better in that time? I mean, maybe they're already doing it, we don't know, and they got an extra 15 minutes in their class. They're like, you guys can work on your homework now if you want, and it's already happening, and we may not know it.
I can say that our teachers actually do what I consider a fairly good job on stepping up to the professional development that is offered. We're not, per se, I would say, 100% top down, you're all going to do this all the time, that building thinking classroom is more of a grassroots. It started out with a smaller collection of people that then really said, no, this has got to grow, this has got to get bigger, and talk to their colleagues and stuff, and we support it and continue to support it, and to this day we are. The same thing's happening with our Writing Revolution project, getting the writing side back in. That is a different type of thought process, and kids spend a lot of time on electronic devices, it's a fact, but how do they coherently put sentences together and understand structures and those types of things? So we have, and we're getting ideas. Again, I appreciate your comment that, knowledge, but the knowledge comes from teachers. They're living in it. These schedules and ideas, I have to give credit to the professionals that are in the rooms. I agree, the math and ELA are probably like wanting every single minute, but these teachers were a part of that concept of going to a 15-minute, so they're aware of that. I don't want to take it as they don't know what they're doing. I respect them as a professional, just like if they were my colleague teaching side by side with me. And so I'm trusting that side of it.
I think it would be good to maybe just get a brief statement as to how many people have their eyes and fingers on what you just talked about, because it's not just coming from your office.
So we had committees at CMS, PKMS, committee at the high school of teachers and administrators. Administrators have been meeting as well, just talking about different options. And part of what today was looking at what are the things that, like if we were rating kind of where are things at as far as what would be a schedule that makes the most sense for what we're trying to accomplish. And I know it's always easy to go like, oh, well, of course, teachers want to do less, or teachers want to do more, or teachers want to do whatever. That was not kind of the way that worked out. It was really, I would say it really was very child-centered of how can we look at options to give students more opportunities. And I think that some of the things that we think about when we think of English, right, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, kids have been taught how to read in K1, 2, 3, maybe 4 and 5, they need some additional of that. By 6th grade, they're reading to learn, right? And those things are happening in a social studies class. Those things are happening in a science class. And those other types of things occur within even those other elective classes, right? That creative thinking, right? There was some stuff that's been out recently showing that, and I'm not suggesting this, right? But I think, being a musician myself, right? There put some value in this, that quit making everybody take a computer science class, make everybody take band and choir and orchestra, right? Because those types of skills and things you develop in there, those creativities and those abilities of working together actually carry on into those other fields and things. And I think one of the things that has come up with the conversations and the schedules has been looking, how do we give some kids more options? Recognizing that there's a cost to that, right? And whether it's 5 periods or 6 periods, that delta is relatively small, but what is the bigger cost in this is those opportunities. And there are benefits to that. There's a cost, and the district has to make the decisions. And if the decision is like, you know what, I don't think that we can afford that right now, we're not there, that doesn't mean you don't care about kids, right? That's not that part, right? It means that, are there other ways and things that we can take a look at? We wanted to present an option and some various variables on a theme today to sort of get some of the feedback that we're getting here, right? We will take that back to the committees and talk about, here's some of the things that are out there. What are some other things with some of those, I'm not going to use parameters, but with some of the questions that came up, what are some other things you may need some more answers to, and that we need to do some more looking into as well.
I don't mean to say that I don't appreciate all this work, because this is great. I mean,
But I don't want to take credit for it either when the teachers
No,
are.
it wasn't all you. I mean,
Yeah.
Like I said, there's committees, there's many meetings, I'm sure.
You just have to do the data research that Tim asked.
Yeah.
But yeah, just with test scores and like community, with the survey for the superintendent, it's like we got to get our test scores back up. I'm just fearful of now reducing the high school periods, because the high school math went down, the high school ELA went down. So now let's reduce those periods even more, but give them more opportunities. Yet our core classes, those are the ones they have to do well in, or should do well in. So it's like, you don't get to take woods. You can take woods after high school. Sorry, there's plenty of guys who learn how to do woodworking afterwards. You know? I don't know.
No, and I'm just, my point there was the fact that experience may be the catalyst to the aha moment when the student is choosing to take that course, and then suddenly, like, the fractions make sense because they're measuring. I'm just going to use your woods example. All the time, that fraction is required. You're cutting and you're calculating, you're building something.
Details are important all the time.
Why does this have to be accurate? Because when I started with this length of linear material, I knew I had enough for my project, but I didn't measure accurately, and somehow I'm short. I'm like, oh, it mattered. That
should have paid attention.
I should have paid attention. That's an assessment right there. Like, you have enough material, were you able to successfully complete the project? And so just providing those
One of the
opportunities.
other things to kind of consider with that too, though, is if a student is in a class that they enjoy and it's not necessarily a core class, it does keep them getting into the building, getting to school, not skipping. And I've seen it time and time again with people that I've worked with.
Well, that was our presentation, just to get the information out. If you have, like, as you're driving home, you're like, oh, man, I thought about this today, email Tim and I, or email Steven, and we just to kind of keep it in our list, and those are some things as we move forward we can keep talking about.
And I don't want this to be coming across as it's an all or nothing concept. Like, it should be, what do we feel that we can do? If there is something we feel we need to focus on, that works for us, given where we're at. I just want to make sure that too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was-
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. On to the next, our information items, our FOIA report is included. For new business, we're going to discuss, I don't need a motion for this one.
Anybody get FOIA?
Just discuss it.
We're going to discuss and I think Dan talked about this earlier, we're going to authorize district civil engineer and construction manager to provide architectural drawings of a proposed parking lot at CHS.
Is this something we need any introduction from Dan on, or just discussion amongst ourselves?
I think it's just a discussion. I mean, we discussed this, in our last meeting.
Yeah, it's,
quite at length.
to bring everybody up to date, Dan shared at our last facilities committee, between having Erickson Engineering do a preliminary layout and our district's construction manager actually get some trade contractor input for pricing, it looks like that's about a $10,000 to $12,000 range, right? I think to help answer these questions from the community and help answer questions for ourselves, it feels like a worthwhile investment. I know from being in the business that those costs are reasonable for that kind of service and that kind of information. And it just gives us information as a board as to what this costs and what this means. I think how we do it, how it's paid for, and when we do it is an entirely separate discussion.
So these steps have not been done yet?
Correct.
What's your opinion of this? Sorry, I'm looking at Dan. I'm looking through everybody.
On the spot.
Tim's like, I don't really have one. You're next then.
I mean, at the facilities committee meeting, I shared we have a lot of things that we have to do that, I would consider, and I'm sure our architects are gonna kind of put priorities on things. There's things Dana knows we've been kicking down the road for years. And I just don't think a parking lot is one of them. I understand that there's a need, we have a lot of needs, but, there's other infrastructure things and things that we have to keep up with and maintain, I think, to keep us going, so. I get a lot of things I could spend $10,000 to $12,000 on. I gave Dana a list the other day, so.
Well, I agree with you. I think we need to be looking at the long-term, what's going to be proposed to us in the next coming months, as opposed to just doing a quick Band-Aid fix of throwing an extra parking lot into a very small amount.
To piggyback on that, at the last meeting, we kind of asked the community, hey, if this is still a hot topic, can you reach out to us? I didn't, since that, I had people reach out over the summer about the parking lot issue. Since our last meeting, when we asked the community, hey, hit us with your concerns or what you want, I haven't received anything, and I haven't been talked to. Is anybody else?
No, I haven't
heard
either.
anything from the community?
So it's usually a topic in July, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
July and August, right,
when they assign the spots, yeah.
Junior parents.
Unfortunately, all the seniors got spots this year. And then as a bonus, a few juniors did too. So we're still meeting the needs of the senior class. So I mean, I know this is only 10 or 12 grand, but like you said, he could utilize that money somewhere else too. So I mean,
And the other piece that we know of, I mean, even based on the work that Chad did, I mean, this is gonna be $500,000+. I mean, we know that it's not like this is gonna be, you know, a couple $100,000, you know, even at the bare minimum, it's gonna be $500,000. Is that really where we wanna put $500,000? I mean,
Oh, gotta find it for the bell schedule now.
right? Well, I mean, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we're talking about $1 million for education. I mean, how do you,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and there's gonna be work that we're gonna have to do on our mobiles, to bring them up with, over the next couple of years. You know, we have mobiles at all of our elementary schools right now, that we're using and that come at a cost. Again, I think the piecemealing part, I think is the concern, right? Is there a need for parking? In one sense, yes, right? In one sense, yes. I mean, it's a luxury and a great thing. For some, it's not a luxury, and maybe that's another aspect. But I think that becomes the challenge of trying to decide, you know, where do we start splintering off some of the things that we're doing? You know, $10,000 or $12,000, you know, on a 90 million plus budget it doesn't seem like a lot. But those $10,000 here and the $10,000 here start adding up.
The flip side is, and we've had discussions on, is the way the parking is being administered the right way, is charging for the use of the spot or lack of compared to other districts. I mean, maybe those that have the need or extracurriculars are those people that have extracurricular needs or to be a part of programs are not getting parking spaces because of the lottery system.
Right.
So there's potential to improve the use of what we have also.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
I think parking's always an issue for a football game or for, you know, but I think every school has that. I mean, there's no way you're gonna have enough parking for those few nights a year. I mean, you'd be crazy to spend all that extra money on, you know, so I mean, in that regard, yes, we'll always have a parking issue, but do we really need, I don't know. I'm thinking about.
And that's what architects will tell you, right? They will say, do you build it for Easter Sunday? Right? Do you build it for the Sunday when everyone's coming, whereas in the other times you're at a much lesser capacity? And that's a decision to make, right? I mean, it's a choice to make. And maybe, as Chad said, you know, are there different ways to look at how they're divvied out? And maybe there is, right, of looking at that.
Maybe we talk to the high school team, and maybe they take a look at how that works, and how we can maybe open it up to more with the same amount of spots. I know some of the districts I've worked in have done, but I don't want to throw those ideas out because it may not be feasible for the high school team, and I think we owe it to them to maybe meet with some student leadership teams.
Well, that, and I think, do we know how many juniors that are involved in before or after school extracurriculars that don't have access, and then how many seniors that got spots are not involved in extracurriculars? I mean, it's back to the educational, I mean, extracurriculars are part of the high school, middle school experience, or, you know, not middle school, but the high school experience. From an educational, well-rounded experience, are there people that are negatively impacted because of that? And then there's people that receive parking spaces that either need or want. Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like to me, we need more information as a board about how things can be optimized before we take this other step. I'm good with that.
I think that might be
I think it's a premature
the prudent
step,
thing for us.
I think more discussion around just the whole parking program in general.
Yeah.
Before we
I'm fine with that.
cash outlay.
So on that, we can just, there's no action needed on that. So we'll just table it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Our agenda items for our November 17th board meeting. Do you want
Yeah, so we'll have some students, EFE students, coming to speak about their experiences with the internships and some different things this summer. By the 17th, you will have, if you follow the schedule, you will have interviewed all the people and hopefully be at a spot either to give an update or to do something at that point. We look to have CEF and the AD doing some presentation on the survey results regarding the high school and not courses, but opportunities, classwork and athletics was on that as well for that. So the other thing that will be either on November or December will be the, obviously the IRA, the state testing, IAR, whatever it's called now. That testing, those results, that data and the map testing, et cetera, those will be provided either in December or November or December based on some other things that we'll have coming in too, so.
And also brought up a possible audit. And tax levy discussion.
Right. Okay.
All right. So now I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.